All right.
Okay. I feel like sometimes I need to like slap myself in the face before these things to just be like ready to go.
All right, I'm gonna go live. Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay.
We are live.
Hey everyone, we are doing one more live today. I'm really excited to have Amy Evans here to talk about the Do Better Couch to Camp online conference. Hi Amy, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, and I'm excited about being on my second Facebook Live of the day. That's a record.
Right? That's what happens when everybody's stuck at home all day long. Right? There's going to be tons of Facebook Lives happening. Well, I thought we could just start first with, I have the pleasure of knowing you for the past few years, but could you, for anyone that's watching us live, could you let everyone know a little bit about yourself and like maybe where you live and some of the things you like to do?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Amy Evans. I am a behavior analyst. I'm also a precision teacher. I've really spent a lot of time in special education and working with students with learning disabilities. I have a really fun time doing that. And I do tutoring here in Denver. So I live in right downtown Denver. So I was going to invite everybody to hang out at APBA. But now that we're not doing that, we will hang out virtually. So yeah, I live in Colorado. I've moved all around the world, kind of chasing mentorship and opportunities to learn about precision teaching and instructional design, which we're going to talk about today. And I've been really involved with standard acceleration charting. And so I've also had to apply instructional design to teaching people about precision teaching and the standard acceleration chart. So that's kind of been my life for the last few years. And Megan and I have had some good conversations about teaching behavior analysts how to do things differently.
Yes.
And I feel like that's what we're gonna be doing at this Couch to Camp event.
Yes.
String
I
of
love
events,
it.
really. I mean, there's so much going on.
Yes. Yes. So, well, thank you for that description. One thing I was hoping you could share a little bit about, and we didn't talk about this beforehand, so feel free to say no if you don't want to.
Okay,
When you said when you said you traveled all around, is there any particular place that you enjoy going to the most?
Oh gosh. Well, so I lived in Hong Kong for a little bit, and it was really magical and special. And I loved that I got to take a bus past like 7 beaches every morning on my way to work and every night at sunset. So that was probably the most like majestic experience ever, and certainly the most culturally interesting. Um, and I've traveled abroad a little bit. I've moved around and lived in Pennsylvania for graduate school. I'm from Reno, Nevada. And Denver is one of those places that everybody loves to live. So I feel like I can't complain being here.
Awesome.
I like visiting Miami and Florida, of course. I'm a big beach girl.
So I take it that you like to travel as much as I do.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which means we're both going to be a little bit.
We're both going to be a little stir crazy.
Yeah. That's
canceling
okay,
lots of trips. Yeah.
It's for the greater good. Okay, so I have a few questions that I wanted to ask you about instructional design. This is a section for the online conference that we're doing as part of one of our themes. And you'll be creating a lot of the content because it's one of your favorite areas. So the first question I wanted to ask you is just like, how would you describe instructional design? And maybe if there's any particular information you want to share about why you love it so much.
Yeah, so there's a couple different definitions out there, and I think it's interesting that instructional design might mean different things to different people and in different fields. So my understanding of instructional design is it's essentially the practice of systematically designing and delivering instruction. So it's both in how you create curriculum and in how you deliver instructional materials. And this can apply to both digital materials, which is what a lot of people who call themselves instructional designers these days, outside of our field, a lot of people who call themselves instructional designers are really, really good at putting together like online courses and creating interactive, interesting materials. So I've gotten to play around with a little bit of that. So that's more or less what it means. And like I said, I think it means different things to different people. The whole point is just, how do you make instruction meaningful, fun, and effective? A lot of questions are really just, how do you even keep people's attention? And other parts are like, okay, so how do you actually use people's performance to modify what they get next? And there's a lot of, with technology growing the way that it is, there's a lot of really cool applications of that.
Excellent.
How I came to love it, I will tell you that part. I really hadn't heard anything about this until I attended Morningside Summer School Institute, so Morningside Academy in Seattle. I think they're advertising their Summer School Institute right now. It's always in the summer, so if travel is doable this summer, then I recommend going. I went as a graduate student. They do a scholarship for graduate students to spend some time at Morningside Academy and learn about precision teaching and instruction, and they spend a lot of time on instructional design because Kent Johnson and the work that he's done with Joe Lang is just really amazing in that realm. So I learned a little bit about it then. It kind of hurt my brain, and I ended up doing an independent study the next semester, just kind of reading through that at my own pace. So that's how I got into it, and I haven't heard many people talk about it. So ever since then, I just kind of drop it into conversations and see if anybody knows what I'm talking about. And when they do, it's always a really fun thing to chat about. So.
Love it. I felt the same way. I think a lot of people, when they go to if they have the pleasure of going to Morningside's Teacher Academy, it's so exhausting with your brain there,
oh my
but
gosh.
you learn so much. It's amazing.
Yeah, you're like working with kids in the morning in the classroom, or you're doing like classroom style learning, and you're learning how to chart and how to do instruction, and you're doing all these practice activities. And then you have just enough time to have dinner and a drink, and then you have to read a bunch of things at night. But It's so worth it. So everyone will say that.
Love it. Okay. So I also, obviously we're on Facebook Live. Hi to everyone that's joined us. Thanks for watching. Feel free to put in the chat box if you have any questions for us about instructional design or about the online conference we're hosting as part of the Do Better Couch to Camp 2020. We have our registration deadline is ending March 20th. So we hope to help people learn a little bit more about what we're doing, because it's kind of a complex event. So again, Amy's telling us a bit more about instructional design, because that will be a big focus of some of the online content, and then our coaching and camp content as well. So for my next question is, what are some of the things we would need to consider when we're designing instruction?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I was trying to watch it on my phone so I could see the comments.
I'll monitor that. You don't have to worry about that. Cool. When we talk about this though, I want you to let us know some of these things, but obviously we're trying to do this quickly, so you won't be able to explain them fully.
Yeah.
That's okay, because hopefully people will learn more about it at the event.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm just going to throw out some basic things that I think we're going to go over that I think are really important. Organizing materials, creating materials that will actually produce the learning outcomes that you're looking for. Of course, we all make our own materials a lot of the time, even when we're using curricula. Sequencing steps in that process. What do you teach first? How do you know when to move on and when to move backwards if you need to? Choosing targets, choosing your examples or non-examples to really clarify a concept.
Wait. I have a question about that.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
So it's not I don't just go into a stack of cards and randomly pull out a bunch of animals.
No, you can't do that.
Really?
No.
Darn.
So there's all kinds of research that's been done, especially in early reading, and we can apply that to other things that we're trying to teach. But some of it is you can't put two letters side by side and teach them at the same time if they're too similar. unless you're going to spend the extra time to make sure that they get that discrimination first and then move forward. So, you know, choosing targets that are either really similar because that's what you're trying to do, and getting those finer discriminations, or starting off with a set of things that are really separate and different. But also just choosing animal pictures and making sure that they're like words that these kids can say, and it's not like a 7-syllable animal.
Not hippopotamus.
Really highly motivated to learn how to say that one word. It may be way too hard to do that in the beginning. So just knowing what to look for and knowing what things to consider. There's kind of a process there. I wouldn't say there's a perfect process, but I love to come up with all of those different factors that could be variables and affect the instructional sequence, and then start to organize your piles of stimuli around that. So we'll get into that a little bit. We've got some templates, some ideas, some examples for sure.
One of the things I'm most excited about with it, we talked about this last week in our planning meeting, is when we go into the coaching piece. So for the Taproot tickets that people can purchase, where we're doing 6 months of coaching each month, we'll have a different area that we're focusing on, and we'll have some like homework and different things to work on applying it. And the crowd sourcing, like brain share that we can do, where there's so many amazing people in our field, and you have created certain resources. Sometimes people will see those resources and they make them better, or they have their own they've been using, or they just come up with their own unique idea. And being able to bring everyone together and be like, you know, Amy presented on this amazing content relating to instructional design and scopes and sequences and variable and critical features and all of this stuff. And here's this amazing template I've created based off of that. And we'll all be like, yes.
Yeah, it's definitely something that if we all took it and ran with it, we would have so many more materials and so much more to use to crowdsource together. Part of the issue right now is that I'm coming up with this kind of pulling things from the academic educational materials realm, because more research has been done there in exactly how to sequence things. I'm pulling from there and trying to apply it to all of these different things that we have to teach as behavior analysts across so many different target levels and skills. So there's a lot to be done, and I definitely can't do it alone.
Yes. So super excited about that. Hopefully some of the people that are watching right now are just as excited as we are to not just learn from our presenters, but from your peers and the different resources that they'll be creating too. Well, thank you. That's great. I've asked in the chat, but nobody's really responded if people know much about instructional design or what they may have to contribute. I saw Cynthia joined, and
cool.
She obviously knows a lot about instructional design.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure from the other people that are watching right now how many have done any training on this. The next question I had for you is kind of broad. We could probably talk for like hours about this. I think we have. What are some gaps you've seen within our field's application and understanding of instructional design, and why does this matter? Like, why do we need to know about it?
So first of all, I'm just going to say, if you're one of those people that's never heard of instructional design, you're not alone. Don't feel bad about that, because that's just not a part of a lot of the curriculum in our field. I have some colleagues who recently did a survey of behavior analysts and found that most people are making their own materials, but never really learned the science of creating their materials. So you're not alone. Corinne Guest, who's going to be one of our presenters at this as well. She and I did a presentation at the Ohio Association for ABA recently, and we had a room full of 100 people, which is a great audience for me. So I was super excited. And then I put a slide that had some stuff from instructional design, and I just said, how many people here have even heard of this? And 3 hands went up out of about 100 people. So if you're in that camp, you're totally not alone, and don't worry about it. But my answer to your question about just sort of what are the gaps in our field, I think there's plenty to work with here, and lots that we can all learn. The 2 that I think are the most critical and the most useful are one is just sort of organizing, doing an analysis of what you're actually teaching. and what type of learning you're trying to produce can totally change how you teach it and how you might organize your prompting, or whether you're going to model it a certain way, what to expect for how that should grow, and what kinds of materials you need to create. So for example, if you're teaching a concept, there's a specific way to do that, and there's kind of a structure to organizing concept instruction. If you're teaching a basic psychomotor response, if you're just teaching like pinching or squeezing, there's a few things to think about there, but it's kind of basic. And then if you're teaching like a whole kinesthetic chain, then there's all these other things to think about. So kind of figuring out how to put things in those different buckets can be really useful. And I think that would be one thing that if we all just sort of spoke the same language about that, it would be easier. The other one that I think, we were talking to Emily about this the other day. She's gotten really into doing error analyses. And I think that's another really critical piece, because again, we're kind of stuck in these, we're going to use this prompting hierarchy. And if it's not working, sometimes the only solution is to go back to a different prompt level. But if you can watch really carefully, if you can train yourself to watch carefully and really capture what the error is or where it's coming from, whether it's a knowledge gap or whether it's, a motor issue that like has nothing to do with the skill you're trying to teach, being able to really carefully watch a performance and decide what you need to do with your materials and your training and teaching, and your prompt levels and your measurement system around what you're noticing there, I think it would be really cool. So I think that would be a quick and easy one to just like put that bee in people's bonnets and see what they can do with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love it. And what talking about, that this is something that not a whole lot of people in our field know about. I was definitely one of those people. I performed pretty decently as a behavior analyst from 2007 to 2012 without knowing anything about instructional design. And then I went to Ohio State and I met some precision teachers, and I went to Morningside, and again, it was just like mind blown, like all over the place. And even still, like every time I talk to you or other seasoned precision teachers, I'm like, give me all the knowledge. Like I'm going to learn all of the things from you, because it's not something I'm fluent with either. And I do think, especially with how busy most of us are, the more we can create these various templates or resources for people to help, not like cookie cutter, here's your program, but here's the process. Right. And so like if you're looking at imitation skills, or you're looking at listener receptive language type skills, or you're trying to do like a problem solving program, like what are some of the things that might be involved with that, and really getting us all more fluent with it. I do, like I said, I make great gains with my clients as is, but every time I get more and more nuggets with instructional design and get more and more fluent with pieces of it, my learners just jump up that much higher with their performances. So
yeah, and I think that's an interesting point. You bring up precision teaching, and I think it's interesting. And I actually have a Facebook thread going about this right now, because I reached out to the precision teaching community and I was like, hey, why are people so good at instructional design in this particular community? They are not the same thing, precision teaching and instructional design, but for whatever reason, be it that there was, some early collaboration and then these fields kind of diverged at some point, and some people just kind of held on to it, and that tradition has continued. There's something about the precision teaching community that has a lot of people at least aware of instructional design and applying it in really interesting ways. So if you know a precision teacher, ask them about instructional design, and you might be able to see some real life examples. I think the other thing is just sort of that measurement piece. Precision teachers are obsessed with measurement, and it's a cool, especially that, we talk about the macro, meta, and micro assessment levels. And so just looking at instruction and looking at your skills at these different levels is a good way to kind of force yourself to think about what you're really trying to get at, what your day-to-day teaching needs to look like in order to get these greater outcomes. So I feel like there's some kind of connection between those two, and I'm still figuring out kind of where the lines are between them, because I learned them as kind of a fluid process.
Yep.
But yeah, I think that's an interesting point, that happens to be something that precision teachers just do.
Yes. Yep. So when, this is going to be the last question because my
Okay.
mom just texted me and my son's up from his nap already. So we're going to go build a sandcastle.
All right. Got to do
So,
that.
yeah. So basically just to close out, like, what are you most excited about for instructional design? If there's any like last little example you want to give or anything like that, just kind of like bring us home.
Oh man, there's too much.
I know.
So I am really excited about, we've been working on this template that we want to share with everybody and then really getting it in the hands of a ton of people and getting everybody's feedback on it, having everyone try it once or twice. I think that's going to be really meaningful for seeing if we've found a way to teach people how to teach and how to design instruction. So that's what I'm curious about. Just by getting this out to more people, I get to kind of see if I'm getting it and if I'm useful and helpful. And those are my reinforcers. So I just made this about me, but why not?
That's fine. I mean, we all are like primarily volunteering time to create all this. So we have,
Totally.
I mean, there has to be something reinforcing about it.
Yeah,
Right?
tell me I'm useful. Yes, so I'm really excited about kind of getting this template into people's hands and then seeing how it evolves. I think this is going to be a really organic, interesting process. And I think by the end of it, we're going to have a lot of really solid examples that you can now take out to your staff and other people that you want to train or convince, and start building that into your programming procedures.
Perfect. I love it. One of the things that I'm most excited about, and I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I'll never forget when I was in Denver visiting you a few years ago, and we had the opportunity to like sit down and talk about some of the work you were doing to train other behavior analysts and how floored you were that like people in our field, you had received this training early on, but most people didn't have access to that. And especially from the instructional design standpoint. So when you were helping them, when they were even coming up with pinpoints or developing some of their programming and measurement, there seemed to be a lot, like when you would ask them why they were selecting that certain goal or what the point of that program was, what typically would happen?
They would say because it's in the VB map or, insert any curriculum or assessment and, or, some really broad statement about like, cause they need to do this. And so the reason why they were delivering instruction the way they were delivering it, the reason why they selected their prompting hierarchy or their measurement, they didn't all mesh. And it really threw people off when I started asking questions. I felt like I was being really annoying. But what we ended up finding was that by taking a step back and really focusing on designing instruction from the beginning, you get people doing that a few times and then they start to kind of apply it to all these other areas and it makes more sense and these things start to click. So we had to take a step back. A couple times that I've worked with organizations who are like really excited about instructional design, sometimes you have to really start from the beginning, and you have to see the whole thing start to finish before it all comes together. So I think that will be interesting to see how that goes. And I think because I've been through it, I know those moments where we need to slow down. So hopefully we can be useful for that as well.
Yeah, because it'll probably seem like a lot of work. I know when we did our one-day conference in June, and a lot of people were just looking at us like, what?
Yeah.
But now I'm excited because we have the opportunity to like help people work through it with the coaching. And then if people are coming to the camp at the end. So it's not just like, here's a dump of a bunch of information and good luck.
Yeah, we don't want to do that to people, but it's a whole new repertoire that you're learning. So it's like, you have to do it a few times and be okay with it being really uncomfortable and taking a really long time. And then it'll just get easier with time. So you just have to do this a few times, sequencing a curriculum or designing an instructional sequence. I think that once you've done that a few times, it gets so much easier. So it's just like any other skill set that we're going to be here for you. And I'm excited that we get to go from the beginning of just, I'm going to throw a bunch of information at you during the conference to we're going to coach you through your own unique examples and then, see your peers' examples. And then we're going to actually apply it for one of your cases at the camp. So I think by the end of that, everyone should at least feel pretty comfortable to give it a shot.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, thanks for answering my questions about instructional design today. That's just one of our 4 themes for the camp. So we're really excited to learn more from you and the other presenters. And I put a link in the chat box for those of you who are interested in learning more about the camp. And we'll be doing
Megan.
all week. So if you want to learn more, I'm talking to each of our presenters to help everyone understand what we're going for and what we want people to learn how to do better and be really analytical and problem solving behavior analysts.
All right. Final question, Megan.
Yes.
Are we wearing pajamas to the couch event?
We'll have to talk about that in our next meeting. That could be kind of fun.
If everybody's on their couches, we might as well. There's going to be children like running into everybody's screens. Like we just got to go with it. So.
Well, that is one of the nice things too for people who are stuck at home and like don't have school or childcare. Everything's being recorded, so you can log on at your leisure and watch and actually get your CEs. So you don't have to try to be there just when it's live. So that'll be helpful too.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, Amy. Thank you.